Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're taking a look at various moments in Game Awards history that caused more than just commotion.
Super gluey goggles. You can put them on, but you can't get them off.
Before we begin, we publish new videos all week long, so be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. The fighting game fiasco of 2022.
Because our next award is for Best Fighting Game. Here are the nominees.
The lazy miscategorization of games started becoming noticeable in 2022 with the Best Fighting Game category. MojoPlays, The King of Fighters 15, and DNF Duel were all expected picks, but Sifu? Many within the FGC were flustered by this miscategorization, including famed fighting game streamer Maximilian Dude.
At their core, they are PvP games. That is the point, right? A fighting game is supposed to be a PvP game. So to me, it's very weird that obviously Sifu doesn't have any PvP in it at all.
The nomination came off as if the jury thought a fighting game was just a game heavily focused on combat, even though that would just be an action game. Not sure how anyone would think that when we've had fighting games define what a fighting game is, like Street Fighter, Tekken, Skullgirls, Killer Instinct. You get the idea. Sifu is a great game, but to call it a fighting game was just negligent on the jury's part. At least MojoPlays, a platform fighter that properly represented the fighting game label, won the award in the end.
And the Game Award goes to MojoPlays.
An RPG kerfuffle.
Harder! Come on, put your back into it!
People have been up in arms over the 2023 Game Awards nominees already. We'll get to some of the other controversies later, but the quieter outrage is focused on the Best RPG category. Baldur's Gate 3 and Sea of Stars are great choices here, but Lies of P and Final Fantasy XVI are leaning way harder into the action category than they are RPG, the latter more so than the former. This was especially hard to accept knowing that other RPGs like Octopath Traveler 2 and Cassette Beasts were left out in the cold in favor of Starfield, which is a good game, but Best RPG? Are we just labeling anything that has stats and doles out XP an RPG these days?
You got a lot to answer for!
Hydrobot, taking it to the next level.
Everyone here in the house seems to be having a great time so far, especially these fans right here who were rescued by no other than Schick's Hydrobot.
The Game Awards used to be not so marred in controversy after controversy, but the very first year where it was truly alarming was in 2016. The 2016 Game Awards had a menace looming over its shoulder from the moment the show started: the Schick Hydrobot. The mascot of the Razor Company was constantly butting into the show between every award and commercial break. What made it worse was just how bad the interstitials were in line delivery and overall demeanor. It just came off as pandering to many, and the frequent interruptions caused many to stop watching.
Hydrobot, taking it to the next level. That was sick. You think you can go for a few more rounds?
The ABK non-address.
Game Awards 2021. Now, here's your host, Jeff Keighley.
The year 2021 was rather tumultuous. Not only were we still in the midst of a global pandemic, but Activision Blizzard King found themselves in a nasty spotlight after the corporation was exposed for mistreating its employees across a multitude of levels. Initially, Keighley said that he was not going to bring up the topic at the Game Awards, which resulted in backlash from various media outlets and developers. Keighley did end up opening the show, addressing it, but he did so without clarifying as to what he was referring to, and without naming Activision Blizzard King specifically. As expected, this got him even more backlash than before.
But you know, we gotta be real and we can't ignore the headlines that are out there. Game creators need to be supported by the companies that employ them.
The exclusion of remakes and remasters. In 2023, we saw a ton of remakes and remasters pour out of the woodwork. As for the Game Awards, it was a category that was considered at one point before being scrapped. The reason? Keighley stated it was because, quote, "Are there really 5 amazing remakes every year?" End quote. In a year where we saw Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, Advance Wars, Super Mario RPG, and Like a Dragon Ishin, some folks saw this answer as a poor excuse. Make it happen next year, Jeff. Jeff Keighley, Keeper of Time.
Games and the gaming community means so much to this world. There's so much in the course of dreams and escapism and just being better.
For a time, the Game Awards was a tad hard to sit through for most audiences, and it wasn't just because of advertising. While bad pacing can be partially blamed, there were also folks pointing to the amount of time focused on one particular side of the show. Some would say there was too much focus on trailers, while others argued against the meaty selection of awards. Keighley and his team have managed to cut down the shows to reasonable runtimes in recent years. Unfortunately, it has come at the cost of several categories getting shoved to 30-second spots with no time for the developers to give acceptance speeches. The only categories who get that are actors and directors nominated for bigger categories like Game of the Year, Best Direction, and Best Performance.
Wow. All right.
2020 Game of the Year.
And now, the Game of the Year award goes to The Last of Us Part 2.
The 2020 Game Awards upset a lot of folks. Like, a lot of folks. Filmmaker Christopher Nolan walked on stage and announced the winner of the 2020 Game of the Year award was The Last of Us Part 2. This had many people enraged for other reasons, mainly because of how many arguably better quote-unquote games came out in 2020. Ghost of Tsushima, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hades, and Animal Crossing New Horizons all dominated much of the conversation in 2020, while we weren't anxiously awaiting updates for COVID-19. And yet, the Game of the Year is voted on by the public, and it's also worth mentioning the jury had a 90% weight in the matter. So, who is to blame here, if anybody at all?
How many came with you? Just you two?
You can't stop this.
The absence of security. While the 2022 Game Awards came and went with very little conflict over who won which shiny trophy, alarms went off when Hidetaka Miyazaki and his cohorts went up to accept their award. One person unrelated to them had managed to sneak on stage and take hold of the microphone.
You know, real quick, I want to thank everybody and say that I think I want to nominate this award to my Reformed Orthodox Rabbi, Bill Clinton. Thank you, everybody.
No one had stopped him, no one had tried to stop him, and folks quickly realized how horribly the situation could have gone. A similar incident occurred at Summer Games Fest 2023, another showcase Keighley hosts every year. Thankfully, Keighley has gone on record to say that starting with Game Awards 2023, security will be tightened to ensure there are no more stage invaders regardless of their intentions. The meaning of indie. This might be the biggest uproar the Game Awards has seen since the Hydrobot Festival of 2016. When Dave the Diver was nominated for Best Independent Game, folks were quick to point out how it was not an indie game. Dave the Diver was developed by Mint Rocket, which is a studio formed by Korean billion-dollar tech giant Nacon. Many felt that this was a failure on the voting jury's part in properly classifying certain terms and criteria. Keighley only fueled the fire when he made his stance on the matter, stating, quote, "Independent can mean different things to different people, and it's sort of a broad term," end quote. Is it, though? Is it really? The voting jury. In recent years, the legitimacy of the Game Awards voting jury has been called into question, and it's becoming more frequent. Every year, the nominations are chosen by a select number of gaming outlets from across the world, the biggest ones being those in the US. Problem is that the credibility and scale of each is debatable, we'll say. Many outlets on the voting jury are podcasts and YouTube channels, and many of them frequently guest on each other's own shows. If the Game Awards is truly about celebrating games, shouldn't there be more than 25 outlets on the jury to represent the US? Why isn't Windows Central on the jury, or Last Stand Media, or Push Square, Time Extension, Retro Gamer Magazine, Nintendo Life, PowerPix, or even the Washington Post? Why are we not asking content creators that specialize in fighting games, sports games, and online gaming what the nominees should be for their respective categories? We have a diverse selection of jury members for esports and accessibility to represent different voices, and they don't even get screen time. Look, all we're saying is, make the voting pool a little bit wider to include other outlets. Please. Doesn't have to be us, but it definitely feels like there's an echo chamber going on. What Game Awards controversy got your goat? Did it make our list? Let us know down in the comments in a civil manner, please. And be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays for more great videos every day.